I'm Alexander Hefner, your host on The Open Mind. From time to time, according to recent tradition, we invite artists who help us escape the frequent weekly exchanges of public policy here on The Open Mind, increasingly weighted down by the unprecedented struggles of democracy. These are specially curated by yours truly, for whom the criteria is only the most soul-rejuvenating, who can recharge our hearts with love in an age of heightened despair. French-American jazz and blues singer-songwriter Madeleine Peyroux continues her musical journey with Secular Hymns, a masterwork of sassy, feisty, and sexy tunes delivered in a captivating collage of funk, blues, and jazz. Peyroux's previous album, Keep Me in Your Heart for a While, a collection of her most inspired songs, is downloaded and repeated on all of my music playing devices, and it's a special treat to introduce you to her today. Madeleine, thank you for being with me.
Thank you so much.
For the audience to know, I do really invest in artists and listen to artists who calm and soothe the soul and the mind at a time that when we're impassioned and in danger of losing something. Do you think we're losing something? I mean, your music is such an antidote to that.
In danger of losing something, yeah. That's probably one of the things that musicians focus on a lot, actually. Especially, I think, people that are aware of early 20th century music and how much we're influenced by people like myself who are cover artists, who work on songs and look over the American songbook and think about, you know, how all of this music is valued, or how it should be valued, and whether or not we should be fighting over it, or just sort of, I guess in my position, it's mostly a question of just keep on going, keep on playing it. I mean, in my live shows, I have a really great experience of sharing something and being there with an audience, and audiences from all over, in different areas of the world. You know, I don't know how much of it is like, how important it might be if I had a larger audience. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing that I'm playing to, for example, playing old songs to, for example, like a 1,000-seat theater or a 500, 600-seat club or something, and not really trying to break into some other arena-style, you know, audience. But the music is always appreciated when we do play these old songs. Like recently after Chuck Berry died, we said, well, come on, let's, you know, throw one of these old Chuck Berry songs in there, which of course was hard on the hands because it's really fast. And people just, you know, they just go wild for something that's good, I think.
I think it was said that if we were going to deploy NASA spacecrafts to show the last imprint of humanity, we would send Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
And that would be the artifact that the Martians find in our heart and soul. And what about Ella Fitzgerald, too, celebrating an anniversary recently, from whom I'm sure you derive a lot of inspiration.
Right, and then so many other musicians last year, Alan Toussaint, and you know, obviously Prince. It's kind of mind-boggling how that's happening. So that's another reason, I guess, that musicians are thinking about that a lot too. And so
there is something biologically different. If we were going to put a microscope on your music, or Otmar Liebert, I don't know if you know Otmar, but he is also a guitarist. He was on the program, and we titled the show Zen for America because there was something in the music that was soothing at that particular moment in the heat of the political season. And I find the same thing about your music. He said he has a surprisingly conservative audience, and a lot of guitar has no political strings attached to it.
Yes.
How the music comes out resonates with you, irrespective of your party affiliation.
That's an interesting problem for me, whether or not there's really something there. I mean, I just did a tour of the United States. Well, actually, I was on tour during the week of the elections. I had that day off, Tuesday. And then I had to play every night for the next 4 days. And so it was kind of a devastating moment to just be there for myself. And it was devastating, I think, to my audience. So on some level, I was afraid that while I was on tour, if I had songs that talked about this or that, or that I had thrown jokes into the show that were mentioned our political, situation, and that I would get some negative feedback throughout, like, for example, certain states. And we went down through the DC area, and then I played South Carolina in a couple of places, and in North Florida and Atlanta and then Dallas. And I got just great responses. Everybody had a good time, except when I got to LA. I had one heckler in LA, and it was a pretty dramatic moment. So I almost feel like I've been taking part in the discussion just within my shows, just with me and the audience in our little rooms that we have in.
Who would dare heckle you?
I'd never found out, but
an insane person.
That person, unfortunately, the scary part was after he heckled me, and the audience started getting really mad at him and booing him, and so that was. But it was, I've had over the course of the campaign, I was on tour in the States last year and in the spring, and there were people that would say, "Come on, that's enough politics. Just sing the song," and yet. It wasn't as if I was going on and on about something. But I couldn't really ignore it. So for me, it's got to be there. It's got to, because otherwise it's meaningless to not, to talk about anything if it's that present, and that's how it is.
Right.
Now, you're probably going to say, well, you're supposed to be soothing us and
No, not at all. I wouldn't say
distracting us from
your words are soothing, as is your music. It reminds me of something that Aloe Blacc said to me when he was on the program. His music touches on some of the same themes, love, romance, and here's a man who's earnest and has a serious purpose in his identity beyond the music. And some artists are willing to be more explicit about the state of society and contemporary issues. He was one of them. When I asked him, is compassionate capitalism possible? He was talking about food deserts at the time and the haves and the have-nots and the challenge of this period of great inequity. And so I admired that. I think when you fuse the music with a mission, that can open minds.
Powerful, right? Yeah, music can be the most powerful thing in that way, I think. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of just it's a kind of a form of meditation. I mean, it could even go so far as being, I think, in functionally speaking, it's kind of like a type of religion, to musicians. Right. This is my God, as it were, small g. But
I remember when I first discovered U2, I felt like I was being pumped. Something was being pumped into my veins. I'm a fan of U2, but to me, U2 now is a little too rough around people would say Metallica or something. To me, yeah. I really do seek salvation with artists like you and Otmar Liebert and Aloe Blacc and Guy Davis, who also is lower profile in the sense that, his ideal venue is not an arena. It's to reach people more intimately, and you certainly do that. You hit them. It's a deep, intimate dive.
It works for me. I honestly don't really pretend to be able to explain what it is that we're doing. I mean, I do think that music has that kind of quality to it, and it does. Yeah. You're talking about Metallica and U2 and saying that's another form of.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean. I have tried to see if there's another side to all this in my own career, like in my own exploration of my voice and what music is going to. like, you know, can I find some other, because I got I just end up with all these ballads, and then not only just a reputation, but honestly a true reputation for being kind of melancholy, and that's kind of who I was anyway as a kid already, and it's who I am. But I really also love comedy, so I've been trying to jump into that, and basically my show is kind of right now. Comic songs are hard for me to come by, but at least it's peppered with my own little jokes in between the songs, and finding another side to those. I mean, I don't know, Chuck Berry, man, you know, it's rock and roll, and we certainly have fun doing it. Now, whether or not that's ever going to be my forte, or is it just sad songs, what can I do?
But the thing about your music is that there is a truth within the melancholy, and it's, I know you say it's melancholy, but to me it's actually more uplifting than not.
I think that's one of the big issues about the blues, and maybe and jazz, and maybe also the way that we look at American music, and how much we value our own legacy in America based on these songs that are really quite uplifting and secular and revolutionary and powerful. And they're kind of dismissed, I think, in American culture a lot of times as just being sort of a thing that, you know, that doesn't have the power that it does.
Well, we embrace you and would love to hear
okay.
from your new album, or whatever track you have in mind.
This is an old spiritual. Tramping, tramping, Lord, trying to make a heaven my home. Tramping, tramping, Lord, I'm trying to make heaven my home. I never been to heaven, but I have been told, trying to make heaven my home, that the streets up there are paved with gold, trying to make a heaven my home. Yeah, I've been tramping, tramping, Lord, trying to make heaven my home. Tramping, tramping, Lord, I'm trying to make heaven my home. Yeah, and I walked around the city. Lord, what did I see? Trying to make heaven my home. There's a whole lot of homeless fools just like me, trying to make heaven my home. I'm tramping, tramping, trying to make heaven my home. Lord, I'm trying to make heaven my home.
Beautiful. What do you experience when you play that?
Yeah, well, the world goes away a little bit. I also have the opposite thing where I feel closer to people around me, or at least I think I do.
Well, when we talk about what we've lost, it's a kind of community of spirituality.
You know, that means so much to me, the fact that music created a community in my life. It created a community in my life that was in the street. It was an open community. It was free, open-minded, if you don't mind. I can't help saying that. Free, and yet, you know, there was, you could say there might be, you know, I was afraid, oh, this is going to be cliquey, you know, coming out of high school and junior high and everything in Brooklyn, and I ended up in Paris, and I was like, oh God, there's musicians here, and I want to go hang out with them so I can learn some music. But, you know, I hope they're not going to be anything like these people back in school where, you know, you have to be something to get in. And I didn't have that, and I was, you know, it was just, music was the only thing that allied us all, and it supported me, and it supported everything. It supported, it changed, obviously, you know, some of this is about me, but the community aspect of it is what made it work. And it's not just among the musicians, it's the fact that when you go and stand on the street where you have enough quiet that you can hear, you get this crowd of people that are just stopping because they want, somehow we're all wanting the same thing, and we're all part of the same thing. It's hard, you know, to see how that could work in places like New York City, not just because of the noise, but mostly because everybody's got to hurry up and make some money and get home and cook that dinner and save that time that's available to them. And it's, you know, it's just the way that it is. I mean, I still choose to live here. I didn't choose, after spending all those beautiful years in Paris, I didn't choose to stay in France. And I felt that I was missing out on something. There is something here in the United States and in New York City, of course, with all the musicians that are here, but also with the openness of opportunity in terms of being a woman, for one, in business, or being a woman in the arts or whatever. It's very different. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about it now as of this year, but
how was it different?
How was New York different, or how was Paris different?
How was it different in terms of aspiring to be the artist you are today? What did you get from New York that you didn't find in Paris, and vice versa?
I didn't feel that women had the same level of respect afforded them in Paris. And, you know, the culture, the old world culture, is still there. Somehow the British are ahead of us, but it seems like the continental culture, well, I don't know. Things have already changed. This is a long time ago, right? But
it's a fascinating history, though.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 20 years. Well, it was a wonderful time for me. Mm-hmm. That time on that street was a wonderful time. And, you know, and I hate to say, oh, this is so romantic and everybody should just quit their jobs and live on the street, or especially high school kids, right? Like, that would be the worst possible thing you could get out of this. It's not about that. It was about that community that was available. And if that's not there, then it doesn't matter whether you're in the street or in a building, in a school, or in a church. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with where it happens. It's just how it happens. You know, and it's open-mindedness and
looking at the Parisian worldview in the contemporary moment. What Le Pen represents is, at least in part, what you're describing as the antiquated gendered assumptions, or something different?
Yeah, well, I don't know about Marine's. I think that she probably is trying to promote women, support among women. So I don't know that she's very backward when it comes to gender equality over there. But it was definitely very new to have women in any political office when I was there in the 90s. And of course, we're still waiting for a female president here in the United States, but there was already a lot more that's been done, and in terms of the jobs and equality, I think America is way ahead. And just knowing that, I could be often told, for example, on stage at the Olympia or something like that in Paris, I could be told by the sound engineer, the local house engineer, to just shut up and let him do his job. And I just felt at that moment that that was only because it was there in France and I was a woman. I honestly think that if I wanted to talk to a sound engineer about my show before the show started, in another circumstance, or if I had been a man over there, it might have happened differently. But that was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And we'll see, I hope it continues to change over there. I mean, we've all got a long way to go, so I don't know a lot about French politics. I really don't. I spent most of my time just being in the music scene.
This dreamy idea of full-heartedness, what do you hope that your listeners glean from that?
Yeah, I think that it really is that healing and time to think about love, or time to be in love, or whatever it is that you want. And I suppose it doesn't have to live only in the song. I mean, these can be ideas that you can take away from the music, but I mean, to me, music has this sort of existence that, especially this kind of stuff, where you can hear it in the voice, but there's really no definition to. There's no way you can mechanically create that. The sound waves pervading and the way everything resonates. In your body, in the audience member's body, in the musician's body, in the street or the room, or it's all present in that moment, and yet we have this cellular memory where I know we go back to it and we can hear music for days, and but so it sort of exists without being able to grasp it, and I don't think that there's anything bad that could ever come from it. It's so tragic that some people actually do think that that's a bad thing.
You have to be pretty backwards to think that, but
well, that's when the attacks were last November in Paris at the Bataclan, which I had, performed there a couple of years earlier, and then I saw these talks about how jazz singers are bad. Which I thought it's not funny, but I thought it would be a really great comedy show, actually, if you had just like jazz singers versus imams or something, like how they would deal with each other.
You get Mel Brooks involved and.
Oh yeah, lots of. Well, he would have to have a bunch of musical numbers. I'm sure the imams would end up singing by the end of it if he were.
Jazz with the imams. That sounds like some sort of nightly special with some Parisian culinary fare.
I wish we could, explore that. Yeah.
Because that full
Parisian culinary fare.
I mean,
okay.
I don't know. The Abrahamic tradition can only extend so far into the goat cheese tartlets. I don't know. To me,
I'm sure you
dying in goat cheese tartlet.
I'm getting really hungry right now. So yeah.
La Serine is the best French restaurant in New York, but you'll have to taste test and confirm that. But that full-heartedness in the minute or two we have left, how do we get that not to be a transitory thing? just a temporary, fleeting full-heartedness in that moment that you so eloquently captured a second ago.
Wow. Well, I mean, what kind of, that's like the kind of thing you ask the Buddha or something when you get up the mountain and, you know, how do you hold on to something like that? Well, you know, I personally think that you can't, and perhaps you can just try to keep remembering it. Remember what it feels like if you need to go back there, like if you're stuck in traffic or something, and you need something to take your mind off of it.
Or when you have those few moments of solitude.
Yeah.
To keep it going in your heart and in your mind.
I mean, what works for me is singing, you know. My body resonates when I sing. And so it's creating an experience that just exists. Of course, I really like to sing with other people, or for other people, or around other people. But there is something just to making a noise, and maybe that'll help.
Keep playing.
Honestly, it could be anything. Yeah, just
Thank
do
you.
it.
You keep playing, Madeleine.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
And thanks to you in the audience. I hope you join us again next time for a thoughtful excursion into the world of ideas. Until then, keep an open mind. Please visit the Open Mind website at 13.org/openmind to view this program online or to access over 1,500 other interviews. And do check us out on Twitter and Facebook at Open Mind TV for updates on future programming.
Continuing production of The Open Mind has been made possible by grants from Ann Olnick, Joan Gans Cooney, the Engelson Family Foundation, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Joanne and Kenneth Wellner Foundation, with special thanks to the Schumann Media Center for additional support, and to the corporate community Mutual of America.